Some people are born into comfort so complete that they never have to question the ground beneath their feet. Others are born into struggle so constant that every single day feels like a quiet battle for survival. Yet, somewhere between these two extremes, life has a way of weaving stories that defy expectation, stories where love dares to rise above status, wealth, and the rigid boundaries of society. Ethan Cole was a man who had never lacked anything. From the moment he opened his eyes as a child, he was surrounded by luxury. His family's mansion stood tall and proud, its marble floors gleaming beneath chandeliers imported from distant countries. His father, Richard Cole, was a titan in the world of business, a man whose name alone could open doors or shut them permanently. His mother, Victoria Cole, was elegance incarnate, a woman who carried herself with a grace that demanded admiration and often envy. Ethan's life had been carefully planned long before he understood what choice even meant. He was expected to take over the family empire, expand it, and marry someone equally powerful, someone who would strengthen alliances and elevate their status even further. Love in his world was not dismissed entirely, but it was expected to come with conditions. Yet for all the wealth that surrounded him, Ethan often felt an emptiness he couldn't explain. There was a quiet loneliness in his world, a sense that everything around him was polished, perfect, and yet somehow distant. Conversations felt rehearsed, smiles felt practiced. Even laughter seemed to echo without depth. On the other side of the city, far removed from the polished gates of Ethan's world, lived Lila Adams. Lila's life was the complete opposite. She lived in a modest apartment where the walls carried the faint marks of time and hardship. Every morning, she woke up before the sun fully stretched across the sky, preparing herself for another long day of work. She didn't have the luxury of dreaming too far ahead. Her focus was simple: survive, provide, and find small moments of peace wherever she could. But Lila possessed something rare, something that no amount of money could buy. She had a warmth that made people feel seen, a quiet strength that carried her through the toughest days, and a kindness that never demanded recognition. Their worlds were never meant to collide, and yet one rainy afternoon fate decided otherwise. The sky had opened up without warning, pouring rain onto the bustling streets. People rushed for cover, shielding themselves from the sudden downpour. Lila, caught in the chaos, struggled to hold onto her groceries as the rain made everything slippery and uncertain. In one unfortunate moment, her bag tore and everything spilled onto the wet ground. Before she could gather herself, a pair of polished shoes stopped beside her. A hand reached down, not hesitant, not reluctant, but genuine. Ethan. He didn't hesitate. He knelt in the rain, helping her pick up each item as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Lila was surprised. Men like him, she could tell instantly he came from a different world, didn't usually stop. They didn't notice people like her, but Ethan did. Their eyes met for a brief moment and something unspoken passed between them. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was quiet, almost fragile, but real. That moment became the beginning of everything. What started as a simple act of kindness slowly grew into something deeper. They began to meet again, first by coincidence, then by intention. Conversations that started with polite exchanges gradually turned into long talks filled with laughter, honesty, and an ease that neither of them had experienced before. With Lila, Ethan felt something he had never felt in his entire life: authenticity. There were no expectations, no pressure to be perfect, no need to perform. He could simply be himself. And with Ethan, Lila discovered a world she had only ever seen from a distance. But more importantly, she found someone who saw her not as her circumstances, but as who she truly was. But the world does not easily accept what it does not understand. It wasn't long before Ethan's family discovered the truth. The reaction was immediate and harsh. To them, Lila was not just an unsuitable match. She was a threat, a disruption to a carefully constructed future, a risk they were not willing to take. Victoria Cole masked her disapproval behind polite words, but her eyes revealed everything. Richard Cole was far more direct. To him, this was not a matter of emotion. It was business, legacy, and control. They had someone else in mind for Ethan, Vanessa Wright. Vanessa was everything the Cole family considered ideal. She was beautiful, sophisticated, and most importantly, connected. Her family held power in both political and business circles. A union between Ethan and Vanessa would not just be a marriage, it would be a strategic alliance. In every measurable way, Vanessa was the right choice. But love does not follow logic. Ethan found himself standing at the center of a growing storm. His family applied pressure from every angle, reminding him of his responsibilities, his future, and everything he stood to lose. And he did stand to lose everything. Meanwhile, Lila began to feel the weight of a world that refused to accept her. At social gatherings, she was met with judgmental glances and whispered conversations. People didn't bother to hide their opinions. She was an outsider, an intruder, a mistake. Each experience chipped away at her confidence, planting seeds of doubt that grew stronger with every passing day. She began to question everything. Was love enough? Could she truly belong in a world that clearly didn't want her? Or was she holding Ethan back from a life he was meant to live? The pressure became unbearable. One night, standing beneath the same rain that had once brought them together, Lila made a decision she believed was necessary. She chose to step away. Not because she didn't love Ethan, but because she loved him enough to let him go. Ethan was devastated. For the first time in his life, he faced something his wealth and influence could not fix. He couldn't buy back her trust. He couldn't force her to stay. All he could do was choose. And choice, for the first time, truly meant sacrifice. His father gave him an ultimatum, one that would define the rest of his life. Choose his family, his inheritance, his future. Or choose Lila. There was no middle ground, no compromise, just a single, irreversible decision. In that moment, Ethan realized something that had always been hidden beneath the surface of his life. He had never truly been free. Everything had been decided for him until now. And so, for the first time, he chose for himself. He chose love. Walking away from his family was not easy. It was not dramatic or triumphant. It was painful, heavy, and filled with uncertainty. But it was real. And sometimes reality is far more powerful than perfection. Life after that decision was not easy. There were no more luxury cars waiting outside, no more endless resources, no more safety net. Ethan had to start over. And yet, in the simplicity of that new life, he found something he had been missing all along: peace. Together, he and Lila built a life from the ground up. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. They faced challenges, financial struggles, moments of doubt, days where everything felt overwhelming. But through it all, they had each other. And that made all the difference. Love, when tested, does not always remain soft and effortless. Sometimes it becomes resilient. It becomes a choice made again and again, even when it would be easier to walk away. Ethan never regretted his decision, not for a single moment, because in choosing Lila, he had not lost everything. He had found everything that truly mattered. Time passed. Wounds that once felt permanent began to heal, even if slowly. And one day, as the sun dipped low into the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange, Ethan stood before Lila with a quiet determination. He didn't have grand gestures or extravagant displays, just a simple ring, and a heart that was entirely hers. When he asked her to marry him, it wasn't just a proposal. It was a promise. A promise that no matter what came their way, they would face it together. Lila said yes. Their wedding was not the kind that filled magazines or made headlines. It was simple, intimate, and filled with genuine joy. But in that simplicity, there was something far more valuable than luxury. There was truth. There was love. And sometimes that is more than enough. As they stood together, surrounded by the few people who truly supported them, it became clear that their story was never about wealth or status. It was about courage. The courage to choose love when it would be easier to choose comfort. The courage to stand firm when the world tells you to let go. And the courage to believe that true happiness cannot be measured by what you have, but by who you choose to share your life with. In the end, Ethan Cole, the man who had once had everything, discovered that the greatest wealth in life was not found in power, money, or influence. It was found in love. And that was a choice he would make again every single day.